Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Neha Tulshan from Crescent Creation. Today I have a set of floral cards for you. Made using Altenew Build-A-Flower Gardenia Stamp set and die. It's a layering stamp set with 3 layers to complete the flower. The first one is the solid image that I am stamping here with. I'm using my lightest Altenew ink to stamp this image. Then will come the 2 more layers which I will stamp with my medium and my dark color. This stamp set also comes with an outline image of the flower, which you can choose to stamp separately and actually color the flower instead of using the layered stamps, or you can choose to stamp that outline image with the darkest color onto your layered flower image to give it a more defined look. Or what I have done today is I have actually used silver embossing powder and I have heat embossed the outline image. And now I'm moving on to the second. I'm lining up the second stamp onto the flower to get a perfect placement. Sorry for my head getting in between. You just need to see it from above to get the perfect placement. And you get this layering guide at the back of the packaging, which is very helpful when it comes to lining these stamp sets. It's not that tough to line these stamps. Also, I would tell you that it's not necessary to have a perfect placement. These stamps are designed in such a way that if you go a little bit off, it's not really going to matter. It's not really going to show, and it's still going to look very beautiful. So you can see here, sometimes I'm going and stamping these layers twice to get a crisp image. And that's where the MISTI tool comes in handy. I can restamp a particular stamp couple of times until I get a crisp image with MISTI. That's why I always love to work with MISTI when I'm stamping my images. Here I am done stamping my third layer and I am stamping my fourth layer, which is the outline layer, and I'm showing you how it looks. It actually looks very beautiful. I like this look a lot, but then I decided that I wanted to heat emboss these outline image, and here I'm going over this image with my anti-static tool, the anti-static powder tool, and I am stamping this image using VersaFine clear ink. And then I'll pour my Ranger silver embossing powder on top of this image, and then I'll go over this image with the heat tool to melt the powder, and that's how I'll get my heat embossing done on the flower. Here I'm just tapping off the excess powder from the image, and using a paintbrush I'll flick off those extra powder that's sticking on the flower in some areas. Here I'm using my heat tool to melt the powder, the silver embossing powder, and once melted it's gonna stay there permanently. And this is how the flower looks once done. I really like this look. You can see I've stamped 3 different colored flowers for these cards, the colors of which will be listed in my blog post, so do visit my blog for all these tiny details. Now I'm stamping my leaf image. The leaf image also has 3 layers of stamps. One is the solid image, which I'm stamping here right now with my lightest color ink. And I wasn't sure how many images of leaf I would need, so here I'm stamping couple of those again and again. This just makes the process a little bit easier. Instead of stamping all the layers at once and lining up each stamp every time, stamping each layer couple of times helps the process to move a little faster. Now I'm working on the second layer, and then the third layer is gonna be the veins of the leaves, which I'm gonna heat emboss again using the silver embossing powder from Rangers. So I thought of stamping couple of leaves a little differently to make them look apart from each other. As I told before, I'm using Altenew inks to stamp my images here, and I have the mini cube sets from Altenew. They are a set of 4 where you get your lighter color, and then the medium color, then the darker color, and the darkest color for each set. So to stamp my first solid image, I used the lightest color from the Green Valley mini cube set from Altenew. For my second layer, I stamped couple of images using the grass field ink from Altenew, which is the medium color, and few I stamped using the darker color which is called the Shadow Creek ink from the same Green Valley Mini Cubes set from Altenew. You can see the difference here. It's not a lot, but it just makes them look a tiny bit apart. Once done with this, I'm gonna move to my third and the final layer, which is the veins of the leaves, and I'm gonna heat emboss these. So here you can see I'm treating each leaf image using my anti-static powder tool, and then I'm stamping each leaf using the VersaFine clear ink, which is the sticky ink that helps the embossing powder to stick. I'll continue doing this to all the images. I will treat them with anti-static powder tool, then stamp it, then pour the embossing powder and keep them all aside. Once done with it, I will use my heat tool all together to melt the embossing powder of all the leaves. Here I have die cut all the flower and leaf images using the coordinating die. Now let's work on the card base. Here I have taped my cardstock with some low tacky tape to my MISTI tool. I have cut this panel to A2 size from Lagoon Cardstock from Altenew, and I'm gonna silver heat emboss this panel using the Pinstripe stamp set from Altenew. I'm treating my panel with anti-static powder tool, and then I'm gonna stamp this image couple of times using VersaFine clear ink until I get a crisp image. This is one of my favorite background stamps from Altenew. It adds a subtle texture to the background of the cards without distracting from the focal point. Here I'm pouring the silver embossing powder to the whole panel, and then I'm gonna heat set it using my heat tool. Here is how the panel looks once heat embossed. Now when I was trying to assemble the card, I wasn't really liking the white outline that you get in these flowers and leaves when you use the coordinating die to die cut these images. Instead of fuzzy cutting that white outline, I decided to color it using Copic marker. I'm using BG75 Copic marker, which is a perfect match to that Lagoon cardstock. So this will give it a feel that I actually stamped these images on the Lagoon cardstock itself instead of on a white cardstock. You can see how different both the cards look. The card on the left, the flowers and the leaves have that white outline, and the card on the right has the flowers and leaves with the colored outline. You just have to be careful not to go over the silver embossed line with your Copic marker, or you might just stain those areas. So be careful while coloring. Now let's assemble our cards. For my first card, I'm using this white silver pattern paper from my stash. I'm adhering this directly to my white card base using some ATG tape. For my second card, I'm adhering that heat embossed panel to another white card base. Now I'm adhering the flower and leaf images to the card panels using a combination of liquid glue and foam tape. Here I'm trimming off the excess that's hanging off of the panel. Here I'm using that leaf that I earlier cut out and gluing it to the area beneath the flower. No one will ever know that I used a cutout leaf here, except just you and me. So don't just throw out those cutouts. See what you can use, and then maybe you can throw off the extras. This card is almost done. Now I'm working on my next card. This card has the images with all the white outlines. Here I'm adhering the panel onto the card base using some liquid glue. For the sentiment on the cards, I'm using the sentiment "We Rise by Lifting Others," which is from the same stamp set from Altenew. I'm stamping it onto the Lagoon cardstock and I'm gonna silver heat emboss it. But somehow I did not like the look of the stamped sentiment onto the cards. So I decided to stamp the same sentiment onto a white cardstock using black VersaFine Onyx ink and glue it to the cards. So these are my cards for today. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Your support means a lot to me. Here are a few more videos that you might like to watch. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.